Please unmute yourself at the lectern. We have no sound from the lectern.
Good morning, friends, both in the sanctuary and on Zoom. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Franklin and to the mountains of Western North Carolina and Northeast Georgia. We acknowledge that as we gather this morning for worship and community, we are experiencing many crises in our world. We have gun violence, we have wars, our minorities are targeted, we have climate crisis, our citizens no longer trust the government, the journalists, and each other. We grieve, we suffer depression, we become silent, and we feel unable to make a difference. And yet each in our own way, we can make a difference. Our guest today, Mcdonald, uses his songwriting to challenge the unfair world. We can march, we can write, we can run for office, and we must vote. Each in our own way, we can try to make a difference. We will now have a moment of silence while we understand deeply that silence will not solve problems. We still must act in whatever way we are willing and able. Moment of silence. We are a lay-led congregation of progressive minds and caring connections, where all who come with open minds and kind hearts are welcome. My name is Robby Greenberg, and I am pleased to be your service leader today. And I am joined this morning on Zoom and music by Jude Lowery. In the sanctuary, our tech support is Warren Riley, Bruce Brandsma, and Ian Carson. And our greeters are Bonnie Gramlich, and I don't know Marcy's last name, and Marcy, our greeter in training. You too can be a greeter in training. Talk to Bonnie. For our announcements, our church-related announcements, I repeat from last week, our worship team has received some requests that Joys and Concerns return to the main part of the service. And we have worked on our tech skills, and this morning we will pause our recording after the closing hymn for Joys and Concerns and introduction of visitors. And then we'll resume our recording for the balance of the service. Your feedback is always welcome. For those in the sanctuary, there is a bowl by the entry for any donations. Oops. We will be holding our annual meeting next Sunday, June 19th, instead of a Sunday service, and a town hall will follow. This will be on Zoom and in the sanctuary. So, UU community-related announcements. Southeast Unitarian Universalist Summer Institute, SUSI, will be held at Western Carolina in person this year. That's in Cullowhee, not too far away, and that's July 17th to the 23rd. The Mountain in Highlands is a Unitarian Universalist retreat and learning center. It offers year-round retreats and camp, workshops, and private events. From June 23rd to 26th, you can participate in Aging as a Spiritual Journey. From July 24th to 29th, the Mountain offers Intergenerational Camp. This is a great time to share with your grandchildren, with crafts and hiking and campfires and music and singing, and a time for relaxation. So consider the Mountain. Are there any announcements in the sanctuary? Would you come to the front and wait? We'll do Zoom first, but be ready. Jude, if you can see if we have any announcements on Zoom. Okay, then we will do our sanctuary announcements. Bonnie?
Hi, everybody, everywhere. I just wanted to tag on to what Robby just was talking about at the mountain, because there are events happening this summer that are so easy and wonderful, and they've become favorites of mine to attend, and that is the farm or forest to table dinners. And the first one is actually this evening at 6 o'clock, but every month they have one. And it's wonderful. They forage for, chanterelle and wild mushrooms, and did you just have a marvelous offering of local and organic food, and it's a lot of fun. They try to hold it outside. We have a big tent pavilion, and I just think everyone here would have a marvelous time if you want to do that. You can check it out. Just Google the Mountain Retreat Farm, and then you'll see the different events there. So I just wanted to let you know that. That's my announcement. Thank you.
I didn't know about that one, and I would like to go if anyone wants to go with me. Okay, Bonnie and I are going. Any other announcements? Yes, do you want to come to the front?
I have tomato plants for giveaway outside. I had some old tomato plant seeds, ox heart and black creme, and I was about to throw them away, and I said, well, maybe one or two of them will sprout. So I threw them in with another pot of potted plant, and they came up over 75. I've planted, I've given away. This is the last line. If nobody takes them, I'm going to take them by the dump this afternoon and see if anybody wants them. They're just outside the door there. Thank you.
I want tomatoes. Done? Yep.
For those in the fellowship, the free herb for the day is dill. It's in that back table.
Those are great announcements. Also, please check your UUFF, which is sent out weekly, for opportunities to be together. And we use the same link for all our events. Our fellowship is a light for liberal religion in the mountains that values diversity and the richness that it brings to our community. We hope that today's service enriches your journey. Our opening words are a few quotes on speaking our truth. Our biggest fear is not in expressing the truth, but that we will be attacked or belittled because of our truth. That's from Kelly Wilson. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we have. Oprah Winfrey. And finally, I am for truth no matter who tells it. I am for justice no matter who it's for or against. Malcolm X. Our chalice lighting is by Richard M. Fuchs. May the light of truth illuminate our minds. May the spark of love set our hearts on fire. May the flame of freedom burn brightly within us, now and always. Our opening song was written and is performed by Joe Jinks, inspired by Pete Seeger's testimony in 1955 before the House Committee on Un-American Activities. The video montage is by Neil Eckstein. Jude? Jude, do we have a video?
No, we don't at the moment. Can we do it a little later? Her system locked up.
Okay, okay. Well, moving on. Now we will have our offering. This is by Jessica Lynn. I come on Sunday feeling weary, having worn out the snooze button on my alarm clock. I come on Sunday feeling frightened. I have seared my eyes reading the latest news. I come on Sunday feeling burdened, having fretted about my workday worries. But I leave on Sunday service feeling refreshed, having been renewed by the spirit of love in the community that exists here. I leave Sunday service feeling whole, feeling lifted up by the words of righteous challenge. I leave Sunday service feeling energized, ready to continue our fight for peace and justice. This haven, this refuge, this place of worship and wonder exists because we make it so with our contributions, with the gifts of our time, our skills, excuse me, our food, our love, our laughter, and our money. Please join me in giving so that we may continue to have a place that fortifies and challenges us in these trying and troubled times. Now our offertory. Jude, are you there for our offertory? Spirit of life? No. Okay, we will move on. Gifts given in love and hope continue a cycle of love and hope. I would like to introduce our guest speaker to you. Not only is Rod McDonald considered one of the finest socially conscious songwriters of his generation, our generation, he's also an educator, teaching the music of modern times at the Lifelong Learning Center in Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida. Since 2009, Rod won the Teacher of the Year in 2012. From Leonard Bernstein to the Supremes, from Arlo Guthrie to Ariana Grande, Rod teaches about the music of the people throughout our history. Although usually labeled a folk singer, his musical styles include rock, pop, country, light jazz, and blues. I must personally add Irish music as well, as he plays in an Irish band. Rod was also a big part of the folk music revival in Greenwich Village, playing the Speakeasy, the Bottom Line, Folk City, and Cornelia Street Cafe. Rod is one of the founders of the Greenwich Village Folk Festival, which is now available online, featuring the songwriters of the 60s and today. Rod?
Thank you, Robby. Morning, everybody. Morning. Let's, whoops. Let's try my picking side of the guitar. All right, let's find something here. Let's start with this song. Church bells ringing in the heart of town. Long lines of people with their sad clothes on. Schools are closed and the flag is low. People crying everywhere you go. But many can't be moved to hear the church bells ring. They look into the parents' eyes and wouldn't change a thing. Black limousines, flags flapping on the fenders. The man who brought this on has no defenders. The whole world mourns the deed he's done. Sadness sings in the candlelit town. But many can't be moved to hear the choir sing. They look into each other's eyes and wouldn't change a thing. A flower floats down on the breeze like an angel in the rain. Non-believers on their knees, struck silent by the pain. There'll be promises to the future. This time things are gonna change. It doesn't matter who can't see it. It doesn't matter who's to blame. Still many can't be moved to see these souls take wing. They watch the children laid to rest and wouldn't change a thing. Thank you. Well, I chose this somber song to start off with for a very specific reason. Not very long ago, I was doing a concert in a private community and arrived a couple nights early to stay with the family that was hosting me. And my host asked me not to play any political songs in the concert because he said that there would be people coming from different political persuasions, including some fans of Donald Trump and some radical liberals, as he put it. And he wanted everyone to think about what they could do working together rather than the things that drive us apart. It's a valid point of view on a certain level, but as I was thinking about it, I played that song for him, and he asked me specifically not to play that song. And I wondered, what about that song could possibly be offensive to anyone? And of course, the answer is that the very people that it talks about who do not want to change any of our laws or institute any policies that would increase the safety of our kids in schools, and I have two myself, the very people who do not want to do anything at all to change any of the laws are the very same people who also do not want to hear us talk about it. In fact, until very recently, there has been a federal law in practice in the United States preventing anyone from even legally assembling the statistics of the number of people shot every year. It's against the law to do so as a social study, and if you try to do it with government funding, you will be shut down almost immediately. This is slightly changed under the Biden administration, but I believe it's still federal law. But I am not interested, frankly, in just polemics. I'm a fan of facts. I have a journalism background. I covered the Pentagon Papers trial for Newsweek magazine back in 1971, as a student intern. I covered Jimmy Hoffa's parole hearings and worked as a beat reporter for the Hartford Courant before I ever played music professionally. I have great respect for the journalism profession, and the thing that I most learned from it above all else is that though my editor was a staunch conservative Republican and the guy that was my immediate advisor was a very liberal Democrat, they both worked very hard together to guarantee that whatever the magazine put out was fact-based, wasn't based on someone's opinion, but was based on presenting people the honest facts and letting them draw their own conclusions. And so I look at that song and I think it's certainly a fact that there are many who can't be moved. Why is that? Well, let's look at my home state of Florida. For example, in my home state of Florida, my Senator Marco Rubio voted for one time in the year 2016. While running for president, he actually showed up in the Senate once. It was to vote against a bill that would have made it possible for the FBI to prevent people on the terrorist watch list from buying automatic weapons. It's the one bill he voted for. He showed up to vote against it. This is the same man who in all his political speeches will say that the problem is not guns, but mentally ill, and then vote against any bill that would prevent mentally ill people from getting guns. And this is the same person who has taken more than $4 million from the NRA since 2012. This is a person who, in my opinion, is without the honor of representing the people of Florida in any issue vaguely resembling gun safety or protecting kids in school. He should either resign or abstain, but he has absolutely squandered, violated, and dishonored the right to represent us in these issues. No one, however, says so. Why is that? I don't know. It's as if people are afraid. I'm willing to bet that the Democratic person who runs against him next time won't even mention it himself because he'll be afraid to offend gun owners. And think about this, how we hold ourselves back because we're afraid to speak up. Well, I guess that's what I'm here to talk about today, is speaking your truth. The first thing that I think of when I hear the phrase speaking your truth is who really knows what the truth is? How arrogant it is of me to presume I know truth better than anybody else. I don't. I can't stand here and say I do, but I can stand here and say that I know what I feel. I know what I know, and if I present that and say, this is what I believe to be true, this is what I wish and advocate and stand for, and you can call it truth, you can call it my opinion, but I'm going to tell you what it is no matter what. I don't care what you call it, but I am going to speak. I look on the wall back here and I see peace, freedom, justice, believe in your ideas, explore ideas and values. These are all good things, I think, to believe in. I don't have to call those truth. I don't have to pretend that my truth is better than anybody else's, but I can tell you that this is what I feel. This is what I believe. And so, for example, in an issue like the one that just came up in that song, I think it imperative that those of us who are the vast majority of people in the United States who desperately want to do something about it, speak up and not be afraid. Just because a very wealthy organization has bought the votes of people doesn't mean the rest of us have to be silent. Well, let me tell you a little story. I used to run a nightclub in Greenwich Village, New York. It was a cooperative organization, much like this congregation, and except that it was composed mostly of musicians and fans. If you ever think it's hard to get yourselves to cooperate, try getting a bunch of musicians to cooperate on anything. Well, there we were, and I was doing the booking of the music 365 days a year, 2 shows a night on the streets of Greenwich Village. And I began to notice that every day, the owner of the club, who was an immigrant businessman from Tel Aviv, had made a award-winning movie in Europe and used the money to get citizenship to the United States and bought this restaurant club. And it was a neighborhood in New York that was very international. And this businessman from Tel Aviv would eat lunch every day with a guy who owned the club 2 doors down, who was from Beirut, Lebanon. They would sit there, yell at each other, and they would do this right on the street, on the sidewalk, on good weather. Yell at each other, throw things, and then when lunch was over, stand up, shake hands, and say, "See you tomorrow." I wrote this song about these two, and I think that their explanation of how they did this was really worth a very valuable lesson to me, so I'd like to share it with you. When I lived in New York City, I worked for a man from Tel Aviv. He ate lunch every day with Ali at the cafe up the street. Ali came from Lebanon. They'd sit there for just an hour, stand there, wave their hands and shout, say, "Okay, see you tomorrow." Now the man from Tel Aviv said maybe they should just let the Israeli army go in and clean out everyone in Lebanon who's got a gun. And the man from Beirut said, "Oh really, look at the land Israelis stealing. Now you want to make us hunted. I thought peace was what you wanted." Picture 2 Americans in the land of the free, free to speak their minds, free to disagree, just like you and me. We do want peace, said the man from Israel. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And the man from Beirut said, "It's a pity you can't have peace and still keep shooting." And they drank coffee and shared a pastry, citizens of their adopted country. Checked the papers for their portfolio, said, "Okay, see you tomorrow." I asked my boss, "How can you stand to eat lunch every day with this man?" He said, "We share one thing together. Back home we'd be trying to kill each other." It brings us around to you and me. You can't see what you want to see. You say we gotta go kill them there, or they're gonna come and kill us here. Well, I don't have to buy it. If I were you, I would get wise. But since you've already made your mind up, I hope you make it back alive. Picture 2 Americans in the land of the free, free to speak their minds, free to disagree. It's just you and me. Picture 2 Americans in the land of the free, free to speak their minds, free to disagree, just like you and me. Well, I was telling that story one time, and a guy walked up to me after a concert and he said, "You know, you're a great songwriter, but I disagree with a lot of what you have to say." And I said, "Well, that's okay." He said, "Can I buy you a beer?" And he bought me a beer, and I started asking him who he was. He turned out to be, I believe, he couldn't really say, but it sounded pretty clear to me that he was a special forces guy who was dropped behind enemy lines in the Iraq War. his job to do what you might call skillful termination of the enemy. And he was a very physically buff guy, quite a bit bigger than me, in great shape, much younger. And that's why I wrote the last verse. I hope you make it back alive. But I respected him for the fact that he said that to me. I thought that was a very valuable thing to do, for him to come up and talk to me. And we had a very good conversation. And it reminded me of several times, I was telling Robby about one of these incidents, when people just go on and on about their point of view. And of course, if you come to one of my concerts, I go on and on about my point of view. That's part of the terrain. And so if you're somebody who doesn't agree with me, you can sit there in silence, or you can do what this guy does, respectfully said, you know, I disagree with you. Why don't we talk about it? I think that's a great way to go, frankly. I remember reading once an interview with Pete Seeger in which they asked him if he still read the Daily World, the communist daily newspaper. And he said, yes, I also read the Wall Street Journal regularly. And what I wish it could happen was be that the editors of both publications would get together and really talk things out. I was at a dinner party one time. I told Robby this, and she said I should tell you this story. I was at a dinner party one time, and our host was an evangelical Christian, very conservative, very Republican, and I believe this was probably in the second term of Barack Obama, before Mr. Trump came along. And he was sitting there, and he was holding forth around a table of about a dozen people, some of them his own family, and two of them my wife and myself. And he was going on and on about what a terrible person Obama was, and how the Democrats had it all wrong, and all of the things that were the litany of woes of people who were on the outs at that time. And he kept saying to everybody at the table, you know what I mean? Don't you agree? Don't you agree? Don't you think I'm right? And just going on and on and on and pounding away at it. And finally he turned to me and he said, what do you think? And I said, well, you know, I'm a guest in your home. You probably really don't want to know what I think. And then he said, oh no, I do want to know what you think. So I said, okay, you asked me. I disagree with pretty much everything I just heard you say. And let that hang in the air. And he looked at me and he looked around the table and he said, finally, somebody with some cojones around here. And he began asking me specific questions, and we had a very good conversation. And I remember thinking that the other 8 people sitting around the table hadn't said a word the whole time. Who knows what they thought? But it occurred to me that maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, 4, 5, who knows how many of them felt empowered by the fact that I actually spoke up. You never know the ripple effect you can have speaking up. But the question is not if, the question really is how, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't really make any sense to just blast away at people all the time and offend everybody you talk to. It's not going to do any good. So the question really is, how do you speak your truth? Not just if. And I think that I have found from experience that being very simple and very logical and attempting to stick to facts and not accusing people of being stupid or bigoted or whatever it is, even if they do appear to be stupid or bigoted at the time, that's not productive. But what is productive is to speak from yourself. I disagree with what I just heard you say. Here's what I believe. Perhaps there's a way to find something in common ground in that case. Perhaps, as my friend who didn't want to hear that other song would say, there's a way to share what you feel about what could be a better situation. Here's a song, for example, that he did ask me to sing. Not only allowed me to sing, but actually requested. Seems like there ought to be a way to look each other in the eye, to see we're all in this together, and put all thoughts of victory aside. Seems like there ought to be a way to turn some fear into trust. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing Okay, folks, time for you guys to wake up and sing a little bit with me here. Let's try that line. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is counting on us. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is counting on us. Seems like there ought to be a way to separate the freedom from the flag, to see what's real in the illusion. Sometimes the beauty walks around in rags. Seems like there ought to be agreement. We would rather live in peace than fight. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is on our side, is on our side. Didn't hear you at all that time. Let's try it again. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is on our side, is on our side. You know, I think it's on page 3 of the Bible that it says God told man to take care of every living thing on the planet. We forget this sometimes, that we have more than a role just to look after ourselves. Everything you see out there, those mountains off in the distance, all the way down that highway, we have a great effect on the health of all of it. And then, of course, what goes around comes around. And so all that we do has a great effect on ourselves in the end. Seems like if there's a God in heaven, we must have been put here to get along, to see that life is for the living, to leave alive the living when we're done. Seems like this ship out on the ocean must fly on the wing of the dove. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is reason enough, is reason enough. Don't doze off on me now. Seems like this ship out on the ocean must fly on the wing of the dove. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is reason enough. Well, let me kind of begin wrapping this up before I run on too long. You probably can tell from this that I consider activism very valuable, and I think that marching and demonstrating and writing and voting are all very important activities. But I also am a believer in just not rolling over and listening to people go on and on in very objectionable ways. I was at a restaurant one time, and there was a guy sitting at the counter just going on and on about something. And he did the same thing my other friend did. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I disagree with everything you're saying." I just say that and let it hang there. Sometimes people get up and leave. They don't even want to engage. But sometimes they'll say, "Oh, really?" And what you often discover is that people overhearing your conversation really want to hear what you have to say. They may not have made their minds up yet. Just because they're standing there saying, "Yep, just because the bartender is letting somebody run on and on at the bar and saying, "Yep, sure," he's just thinking about getting a tip. He's not going to confront anybody. The waitress, she'll lose her job if she puts a plate of roast beef down in front of some guy who's running off at the mouth and says, "Would you please shut up?" She'll lose her job. But you don't know what people really think. And so if you can speak your truth in a respectful and easy manner to people, you might have a ripple effect on everybody around you, your family, your friends, other people in the room. You don't ever really know who's out there listening. But the point is, if you don't say something, it just makes it seem as if that guy's right. He's carried the field. How did we get to this point? You know, as Robby said, I spent years in Greenwich Village. Back in those days, when I got inspired as a teenager in the music of Greenwich Village and folk music, it was commercial music. It was pop music. Those songs of Peter, Paul, and Mary and Dylan and Donovan, they were all over the radio. Well, how did that change? Well, one of the things that changed was President George W. Bush packed the FCC with all his friends, and they bought all the commercial radio stations in the United States. Still own them. They're all owned by conservative Republicans, and they have banned any music that has any remotely left-wing content. And in so doing, they've also bought up all the performance arenas, the major ones, and in doing that, the record companies have had no choice but to not allow their artists to record any political music. Because if they do, they won't get played, they won't get to play the arenas, they won't sell records. It's bad for business. And so being bad for business has become synonymous with somebody actually having an opinion. You can have an opinion on the right. You can sing, as Toby Keith sang during the Iraq War, "We're gonna bomb them to smithereens, courtesy of the red, white, and blue." And they will play that one every hour on the hour. But when the Dixie Chicks said, basically, we were opposed to the war, they took them off the radio and practically forced the group to break up. It is what you're against. You can roll over and play dead and let it be that way, or you can just quietly, within your own community, speak your truth. It's the same for me. I am a person who goes around singing for small groups of people. I won't ever be on Columbia Records, I don't imagine, at 73 years of age, that they're likely to sign me. I won't be singing on America's Got Talent for millions of people. But then again, I won't have to wave my arms and try to get everybody to squeal at every line I sing either. I can just sing my songs. Now, when the pandemic started, I was hanging around the house with my kids, and one of them said, "Have you thought about singing online?" And so I went on Facebook, stuck my phone in front of me, and there I was. And I said to my wife and kids, "Look, this actually works." And then I looked over at the comments, and there were 600 people watching. It was shocking to me, really, it was shocking. And several of the comments said, "Aren't you gonna sing for us?" So I got my guitar and I sang a couple songs. And I said, "How about I come back next week when I'm a little more prepared?" And I've been singing on Facebook most Sunday nights since. You can find me there around 8 o'clock. Rod MacDonald, and it's spelled M-A-C, MacDonald. Join me sometime. After I'd been doing it for a little while, I started thinking, I really ought to write some songs. I ought to have something to say to people. The pandemic made me very depressed. And the first few times that I sang on Facebook, probably the first 3 or 4, I was very sad. I felt like this is what we've been reduced to. We've brought ourselves to this point. The world out there, it's a scary place. I live 1/8 of a mile from the Atlantic Ocean in South Florida. They say that in 15 years, my house is likely to be half underwater. By the time I actually can sell it when my kids are out of high school, the banks will probably stop giving 30-year mortgages. The governor of my state recently passed a law saying that it's now illegal in school to discuss the history of Black people in the United States in any way that makes anyone uncomfortable. If your 6-year-old kid is uncomfortable hearing about slavery, he goes home and says to his parents, "Mommy, school made me uncomfortable today." And those parents can sue that school teacher personally in court and that school system for money for teaching kids the history that slavery existed, for teaching kids that for 100 years, African American people couldn't vote, couldn't hold most jobs, couldn't even walk down the street without being hassled. And certainly no Black man could look at a white woman without being hanged on a tree out in the countryside for 100 years. Can't mention that. Might make some kid uncomfortable. It's against the law in Florida to talk about this. It's now against the law for kids in elementary school to be even aware that there are gay people in the world. If a kid stands up in class and says, "Teacher, what does it mean to be lesbian?" and that kid is in 3rd grade, that teacher is required by law to say, "I cannot answer that question." If he answers that question, he could be sued personally, and the school system can be sued too. This is the state of affairs of the governor of my state. This is what he considers good governance. Imagine that. And so the pandemic made me very sad. I felt like I was singing for people, myself included, who were beaten down, that we're locked up in our houses, that we were in desperate times. And I even thought, when I heard the governor of my state tell people that they didn't need to be vaccinated or wear a mask at the height of the pandemic, or the president of our country say that it was all a big joke and they should take horse tranquilizer instead of being vaccinated, I thought, if these guys had been in power back when smallpox was in vogue, we'd still have smallpox. And yet, you can't say it, can you? That's what they tell you. You can't talk like that. You might offend somebody. Well, I say, offend away. Call a spade a spade. Well, I wrote this song to try to imagine a better time when the pandemic was over. So I guess this is what I'll leave you with today before I run on way too long. Thanks for listening. And I'd just like to say that to whatever extent I can, I got your back. Speak up. Don't roll over and play dead. And you can start by singing this song with me. Hey, is anybody listening? Are you all alone, wherever it is you are? I'm just sitting here thinking, or maybe I'm just wishing on a star. And if there's somebody out there who can recognize a single word I say, I'd like to ask a simple blessing for all of us while we're all away. Heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world. We don't mountain. We don't need someone to lead us to the light. We just need to learn to live together, and I believe the rest will turn out all right. Heal the world, come on, sing it with me. Heal the world, it's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world. Heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. I can almost hear you. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world. What I want you to do is to sing it loud enough that folks can hear it on this microphone here that are out there, and they'll join us too. So I'm going to back away from the mic a little bit and give you some. Let's try it. Heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world. Come on, you folks at home can join us. Heal the world, it's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world. Now we know that Mother Nature loves all creation, not only me and you. She will rise up if you harm her loved ones, and yes, we're beginning to see that it's true. Come on, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world. You know, you may have heard the story of the 100 monkeys. You ever heard that story? How there were 100 monkeys, or 99 monkeys, and they all went down to the beach. Or, I guess one of them went down to the beach and washed a banana one day. And after he did it, they discovered that somewhere else another monkey went down and washed his banana. And before long, one by one, the monkeys were going down to the beach and washing their bananas. Somewhere, the 100th monkey washed his banana. And then suddenly, all the But I believe that there are things in spirit that are like that. There are things that as humanity, we collectively decide without even having a vote. We just start doing it. One of those, for example, is people are helping out people in the Ukraine. A couple friends of mine just took in a family from the Ukraine, put them in their basement with their kids, helping them get jobs. People just spontaneously started doing this all over the Western world. Well, I believe that we can actually turn the tide of the way things are going on this planet and in this country. We can do it without necessarily taking a vote, although that's certainly important to do that. But I believe that it's just as important that we just reflect and remember and speak from who we are. Just like it says behind me. Say, hey, is anybody listening? Are you all alone, wherever it is you are? You know, I'm just standing here thinking, or maybe I'm just wishing on a star to heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world, heal the world, heal the world. It's a simple prayer, sing it everywhere. Heal the world. Thanks for.
Do we have Jude to play a song for us? Yes? Okay, our next song is Love Will
I
Guide Us.
have the song, and let's see if I can get it to play. It takes a minute for me to make it happen.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
I would love for Jude to play the song that we missed earlier by Joe Jenks, and if that's all right with you. I know we're running a little late. But
I'm sorry, guys. I wish I had it, but I didn't get the documents till 2 minutes before the service. So I was not able to get that song queued up with my computer issues. I apologize. Maybe we can have that another day.
Okay. Okay. How about Spirit of Life? Or no? Spirit of Life?
I can pull out an older Spirit of Life. Like I said, I got the order of service
Okay.
a minute before, and I don't have any of those selected. I didn't have time to get them.
Okay. All right, then. It's running late anyway, and we will save it for another day. Now we will pause our recording. Our closing words today are by Jane Malden. Now may the love of truth guide you, the warmth of love hold you. Page 2. That's an old reference. And the spirit of peace bless you this day and the days to come. We extinguish this chalice with words by Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. For our closing circle and covenant, for those in the sanctuary, you may choose to join hands and rise. Those of us on Zoom will join us in spirit as we recite our covenant together. Do we have the covenant up? Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and community is its goal. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you for joining us today. Next Sunday, we will have our annual meeting instead of a Sunday service, and it will be followed by a town hall. On June 26, we will not be in the sanctuary. Services will be offered on Zoom only. Our service has ended. We invite those in the sanctuary to gather for coffee hour. Those on Zoom are welcome to continue the conversation. Thank you.